Welcome to the deep dive. And before we get into anything, I really just want to say, may your day and, your entire week ahead be blessed with peace and discovery.
Yes, absolutely.
Because honestly, we are kicking off right away today with a statistic that, well, it completely shatters how we usually approach ancient history.
It really does.
Yeah, so get this. Over 90% of the material in the Gospel of John is entirely exclusive to it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, 90%. We are unpacking the introduction to the Gospel of John today, and we're utilizing insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles, and that 90% figure, it really just sets the stage for everything we are going to talk about today.
It is a staggering number when you pause to consider it. I mean, 90% means John isn't just, adding a few minor details to the stories that were already circulating in Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Right, the Synoptic Gospels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is doing something entirely different with this text.
Yeah, and the best way I can think to describe the function of this for you listening, well, imagine a legendary band releasing their highly anticipated fourth album.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. You buy it expecting the usual sound.
Mm-hmm.
You expect the catchy pop hooks and the standard drum beats, which in this case would be the prominent parables and the short, snappy miracles that Matthew, Mark, and Luke focused on.
The greatest hits, essentially.
Exactly. But you press play, and it's a totally different genre. The Gospel of John just leaves out almost all of those familiar hits. Instead, it leans heavily into these deep, profound, highly extended public discourses.
That is a really highly accurate way to look at the functional shift in the text. I mean, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they give us this broad, sweeping historical narrative.
Yeah, they cover a lot of ground.
They do. They show us what Jesus did and exactly where he traveled. John's primary goal, however, is just laser-focused on identity.
Just zeroed in.
Completely. It's an intricate theological argument designed to prove that Jesus is the eternal Son of God. And crucially, it is designed to force you, the reader, to respond to his teachings.
So it's not just a biography then?
No, not at all. It is a demand for a verdict.
Okay, so if this text is functioning as a completely new genre, and it's facing a completely new problem, we really have to look at the timeline.
Oh, definitely. Timeline is everything here.
Because to understand why it sounds so different, we need to uncover exactly when and where it was written.
Context is the key to unlocking this whole book. Now, the who is widely accepted thanks to both internal textual clues and, early church history.
Right, like figures like Irenaeus backing it up.
Exactly. So the author is understood to be the Apostle John, the son of Zebedee. He is famously referred to within the narrative as the disciple whom Jesus loved.
Okay, so let's unpack this,
Yeah.
because here is where I need to push back a little on the timeline that the sources provide.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the sources date the writing of this gospel between 70 AD and 100 AD, with the most likely window being roughly, I think it said 85 to 95 AD.
Yes, that's the standard scholarly consensus.
But, I mean, if the author was an eyewitness, right, one of the closest friends of Jesus, why would he wait 50 or 60 years after the events took place to write this down?
That's a fair question.
Like, how do we definitively know he didn't write it earlier, right after it all happened?
Well, this raises an important point, and it's where the historical detective work in the source material really shines. Because we aren't just guessing at these dates.
Okay, so there's solid proof.
Yes, there are highly specific textual clues that securely anchor this document to the end of the first century. For example, let's look at the geography.
Geography, okay.
Yeah, yes. The text refers to the Sea of Galilee as the Sea of Tiberias. Now, the mechanics of how cities and landmarks get renamed over time is really important here.
Because names change depending on who's in charge.
Right. And that specific Romanized name for the body of water, it only became widely used by the general public at the very end of the first century.
Oh, I see.
So an earlier writer simply wouldn't have used that vocabulary.
So it's like someone today referring to JFK Airport when they're telling a story about an event in the 1940s?
Yes, exactly.
The vocabulary itself is an anachronism that gives away the era the author is actually writing from.
That is a perfect analogy. And then there is a massive political clue baked into the climax of the book.
Okay, what is it?
Near the end of the gospel, Thomas makes this really dramatic confession. He looks at Jesus and calls him, "My Lord and my God."
Right, very famous line.
It is. But we have to understand the Roman political machine in the late first century. The Emperor Domitian, who reigned during this later period, he practically demanded to be addressed with that exact title.
Wait, really? Lord and God?
Yes, Lord and God. He demanded it in everyday commerce, in civic oaths. It was the absolute center of his imperial cult.
Wow, so Thomas's declaration isn't just like a religious realization.
Not at all.
It functions as a direct, subversive counter-declaration to the emperor's demands.
It is absolute political defiance. By highlighting this specific phrase, John is making a late first-century political and theological statement that would have been highly dangerous to circulate.
Man, that changes how you read that scene entirely.
It really does. And then we have this fascinating clue found in what is completely missing from the text.
Missing? Like what?
There is a total absence of any reference to the Sadducees.
Oh, which is strange, because the Sadducees were a major, incredibly wealthy Jewish religious party.
Right, they were a huge deal.
I mean, they are constant antagonists in the other Gospels, but I'm guessing their absence has to do with the year 70 A.D.
You've connected the dots perfectly. The power, the wealth, and the very existence of the Sadducees were entirely tied to the physical temple in Jerusalem.
Okay, so when the Roman army besieged Jerusalem.
Exactly. When they leveled the temple in 70 A.D., the Sadducees effectively ceased to exist as a functioning group. So the fact that John doesn't mention them at all strongly indicates he is writing in a post-70 A.D. reality. The Sadducees are no longer a relevant factor in the religious landscape, so they just don't make it into his argument.
That makes so much sense. So all the puzzle pieces, right? The late first-century geography names, the defiance of emperor worship, the missing Sadducees, they all strictly point to that 85 to 95 AD window.
They absolutely do.
And as for the where, the sources point to Ephesus, which is located in modern-day Turkey.
Right. Ephesus was a massive, diverse, incredibly vital urban center in the Roman Empire.
Like a major hub.
Oh, yeah. It was a bustling crossroads of ancient commerce and Greek philosophy.
So writing from a massive, diverse hub like Ephesus in a post-70 AD world, I mean, that completely reframes who is actually reading this text.
It changes everything about the audience.
The audience has drastically changed since the days Jesus was walking around Galilee.
It had. John is writing to a broad, cosmopolitan, Greco-Roman world. He isn't just addressing a local Judean audience anymore.
And the text itself proves this, doesn't it? I mean, if you read closely, John constantly pauses his own narrative to explain basic Jewish customs.
Yes, he does.
Or to point out the geography of Palestine. And he frequently translates Aramaic terms into Greek for the reader. Like if his audience were local Jews living in Jerusalem, that would be completely unnecessary.
Precisely. And this is where John's genius as an author and a theologian really shines. He is masterfully bridging this massive cultural gap.
Right.
He is speaking to both Greeks and Jews simultaneously. He uses concepts that resonate deeply with both groups, but for entirely different historical reasons.
Okay, so how does that actually work in practice? Like, how do you write one sentence that captivates a Greek philosopher and a Jewish refugee at the exact same time?
Well, let's start with the Greeks. John introduces Jesus in the very first verse of the book as the Word, or in the original Greek, the Logos.
The Logos.
Right. Now, we have to understand that Logos wasn't just a grammatical term. It was a heavily loaded philosophical concept.
Like for Greek thinkers?
Exactly. For Greek Stoics and early Gnostic thinkers, the Logos was the abstract divine reason. It was the impersonal mathematical equation or the logic that ordered the universe and kept the cosmos from falling into chaos.
So it wasn't a personal god they prayed to, it was more like the laws of physics.
Exactly. It was a cosmic principle. So John takes that deeply familiar Greek concept and completely turns it on its head.
What does he do?
He says, essentially, you know that abstract divine logic behind the universe? Well, it isn't just a principle. It is a person. It became flesh, it walked into the room, and it has a name.
Man, that would have been a philosophical earthquake for a Greek reader.
Oh, completely.
Just the idea that the perfection of the cosmos would dirty itself by taking on human flesh and blood.
It completely broke their paradigm. But then look at how John uses that same text to speak to the Jewish audience living in that exact same city.
Okay, how does he reach them?
Remember our historical anchor. The Jerusalem temple was destroyed in 70 AD. We cannot overstate how catastrophic that was.
Because it wasn't just a building.
Right. The temple wasn't just a church building for the Jewish people. It was the literal intersection of heaven and earth. It was where God dwelled.
So its destruction was an unimaginable religious and national trauma.
Absolutely unimaginable.
Well, if the place where heaven and earth meet is reduced to rubble, how do you even continue to worship? Like, how does John address that specific trauma?
He addresses it by presenting Jesus as the ultimate fulfillment of all the Jewish festivals. and, more importantly, as the new temple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he is meticulously showing his Jewish readers that the physical building of stone and gold may be gone, but the presence of God hasn't abandoned them. It has simply relocated.
It relocated into the physical person of Jesus.
Exactly. Jesus is now the new, indestructible center of worship for the people of God.
It's like John is a master translator.
Yeah.
But he isn't just swapping vocabulary words from Aramaic to Greek. He is converting entire cultural paradigms.
That's a great way to put it.
He's taking the deepest philosophical longing of the Greeks, which is the search for the logos, and the deepest religious trauma of the Jews, the loss of the temple. And he's translating both of them into the exact same functional answer.
And both groups get to experience the exact same aha moment.
That is just brilliant.
What's fascinating here is how robust this theology is. I mean, he is constructing an argument strong enough to hold the weight of the entire Greco-Roman world.
But, if you were trying to communicate an idea that massive to an audience that divided, you can't just write a chronicle of events. You have to engineer an argument.
Yes, you do.
And the sources detail how John carefully constructs this as a literary masterpiece. It is full of patterns, symbols, and these incredibly sharp contrasts between light and dark, life and death. Let's dig into the actual architecture of this book.
The structural architecture of John relies heavily on the number 7. John organizes his narrative framework around 7 major signs.
Signs, not miracles.
Right. He deliberately avoids the standard Greek word for miracles. He calls them signs because they aren't just magic tricks. They are specific, miraculous mechanisms pointing directly to Jesus' divine identity.
Okay, so turning water to wine, raising Lazarus from the dead. Those were a couple of the signs. But these signs are paired with something else, right?
Yes, they are. Parallel to those 7 signs, Jesus makes 7 profound I am statements.
Like what?
Things like, I am the bread of life, or I am the light of the world.
And these aren't just randomly paired either. Let's look at the mechanics of how these signs function alongside the statements. Take the feeding of the 5,000, for example.
That's a perfect example. So Jesus performs the sign of feeding a massive crowd of thousands in the wilderness with just a few loaves of bread.
Right.
Immediately after performing that physical sign, he delivers a discourse declaring, I am the bread of life. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this maps directly over the Exodus story.
Oh, with Moses.
Exactly. The ancient Israelites had manna in the wilderness, which was temporary physical sustenance. By doing this sign and making this statement, Jesus is explaining the mechanism of his identity. He is the eternal spiritual sustenance.
So he is actively replacing the ancient provision with himself.
Yes, he is.
And the phrase I am itself, that sounds like a simple sentence starter to a modern English reader, but in this context, it has massive weight.
Unbelievable weight. In the Hebrew Bible, the phrase I am is the personal sacred name of God, Yahweh.
The name revealed to Moses at the burning bush.
Exactly. So every single time Jesus says I am in this gospel, he isn't just offering a neat metaphor. He is actively claiming the divine name and the absolute authority of the Creator for himself.
Wow. And here is where the literary style gets really compelling to me. With Jesus making these massive cosmic claims about his identity, John frequently uses misunderstandings as a deliberate teaching tool.
Oh, he loves doing that.
Yeah, Jesus will make a profound spiritual statement, and the people around him will completely misunderstand it by taking it hyper-literally.
It is a recurring motif. For instance, Jesus tells Nicodemus, who is a highly educated religious leader, that he needs to be born again.
Right, and Nicodemus is utterly confused.
Completely. He starts asking about the mechanics of a grown man re-entering his mother's womb.
Which is just wild. Or, Jesus tells the Samaritan woman at the well that he can give her living water.
Yes.
And her immediate reaction is relief that she might never have to carry her heavy water jug to the well again. Like, she's thinking entirely about physical hydration.
And does this very intentionally. By showing the characters in the story completely missing the point, he puts the reader in a position of superior knowledge.
Oh, that's clever.
It is. It forces you, the person holding the text, to constantly look past the literal physical surface of things to grasp the underlying spiritual reality. John is training his reader to understand that in Jesus' kingdom, water isn't just water and bread isn't just bread.
He is making us feel like we're in on the secret. Now, I notice in the sources there's a hard structural pivot right in the middle of the text. It's like he stops talking to the crowds, and suddenly the camera zooms way in.
Yes, the book is very clearly divided into two halves. Chapters 2 through 11 are often called the Book of Signs.
Okay.
This focuses on Jesus' public ministry to the world. The massive crowds, the public miracles, the loud debates.
But then chapter 12 hits.
Right. Right at chapter 12, the narrative shifts dramatically inward. We enter what is often called the Book of Glory. The focus moves entirely away from the crowds and zeroes in on his intimate, closed-door teachings to his disciples.
Which leads directly into the narrative of his passion, right? His
Yeah.
arrest, trial, and crucifixion.
Exactly.
And the mechanics of how John tells the story of the crucifixion, it feels entirely different from the other Gospels. I mean, in the synoptics, we see a lot of agony, like in the Garden of Gethsemane. But John paints a very different picture of how this unfolds.
He really does. In John's telling, there is a heavy, relentless emphasis on the fact that Jesus is in absolute, total control of the events.
He's not a victim.
No, he is not a helpless victim being crushed by the Roman war machine. Think about the arrest scene in the garden. When the armed guards come to seize him, Jesus doesn't hide. He steps forward and says, "I am he."
There's that I am again.
Exactly. And John explicitly notes the physical mechanism of their reaction. The heavily armed soldiers physically draw back and fall to the ground.
Just at the sound of his voice claiming that divine name.
It is a display of sheer authority.
Yeah.
And then consider his trial before Pilate, the Roman governor. Usually a prisoner facing execution is terrified.
Obviously, yeah.
But here, Pilate is the one who is scrambling, frustrated, and terrified. He famously asks, "What is truth?" while Jesus is completely calm.
Wow.
Jesus just looks at the man about to sentence him to death and tells him, "You would have no authority over me at all unless it had been given you from above." Jesus is orchestrating his own passion.
And there's one crucial detail John includes about the timing of the crucifixion that just brings his entire theological argument together, isn't there?
Yes, the timing is everything here. John specifically notes that Pilate condemns Jesus to the cross at the 6th hour on the day of preparation.
Okay, the 6th hour. Why does that matter?
We have to look at the mechanics of what was happening in Jerusalem at that exact moment. The 6th hour was the precise time that the temple priests began slaughtering the Passover lambs for the entire nation.
Oh, wow. So the exact moment the Roman state is condemning Jesus, the priests are sacrificing the lambs.
Precisely.
And circling back to our audience in the 90s AD, their physical temple has been destroyed. They don't have a place to sacrifice Passover lambs anymore.
And John is telling them you don't need the physical temple anymore. The true Passover lamb, the one who orchestrated this entire cosmic event, has already laid his life down.
That is incredible.
It's the ultimate fulfillment of the ancient Jewish sacrificial system, executed with absolute divine precision.
So we have this intricate literary architecture, we have these historical anchors, and we have these massive theological claims, perfectly timed to replace the temple system. But, I mean, what is the actual goal of all this engineering?
Well, John doesn't leave us guessing about his motives. He states his thesis explicitly near the end of the book.
Where is that?
In John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31, the entire purpose of the document is evangelistic. He says he wrote these specific signs down so that you, the reader, might believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing, you may have life in his name.
So it's an invitation.
Exactly.
It's not meant to be read as an ancient history textbook. It's a document engineered to produce active belief in the person holding it.
And that brings up one final, incredibly striking linguistic insight from the source material that I think really drives this home.
Oh, let's hear it.
In John's Gospel, the words know and believe are used extensively. They occur over 90 times each throughout the text.
That's a lot.
It is. But what's fascinating is the grammar. They are always used as verbs. In the original Greek, John never once uses the noun form for knowledge or belief.
Wait, never. He never uses them as noun.
Never a noun, not once. In John's theological framework, knowing God or having faith isn't a passive state of mind.
It's not just a thing you have.
Right. It isn't a static object or a diploma you put on a shelf and just possess. It is an active, dynamic, ongoing action. You don't just have belief. You are actively believing. You are actively knowing.
Man, that completely changes the paradigm of how we interact with this text. And really, it brings us all the way back to our analogy at the very start.
The fourth album.
Yes. The Gospel of John is a completely different album. It's not meant to just be listened to passively in the background. It's music that demands you get up and move. It demands an active, ongoing physical response.
And if we take John's grammatical rule seriously, that belief is strictly an action verb, it raises a much tougher question for us to consider today.
So,
If a forensic auditor came to investigate your life right now, and they weren't allowed to listen to what you say you believe, what physical evidence would they find in your daily actions to prove you are actively believing?
oh, wow. That is a heavy, provocative question to walk away with.
It really makes you think.
It does. If belief is only a verb, where is the action? We are going to wrap things up right there for today. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us through the architecture and the history of the Gospel of John.
It's been a great discussion.
And as we close out this deep dive, we just want to say goodbye by declaring that God blesses all of you listening. Until next time.